reveals itself once more. See the future, is it sure? Cast a die, what is it for? And you know, nothing's set in stone. The choice is yours. Go ahead and open the door. Step outside your comfort zone. And the knowledge that is shown. Take it all, you're not alone. This life is yours, do not bemoan.
Greetings from the Voodoo Room. Today's guest is Joe Matera. How's things in your neck of the woods, mate? You've
not too bad, yeah. I mean, things are everyone's sort of taking care and trying to stay away from this virus and just trying to keep busy, really. Sort of keep sane. That's the main thing, is not to go crazy when you can't sort of do much. Thank God we've got studios, and as musicians that we can sort of play around in and continue working in some ways. But for those people who can't do that sort of stuff, I just feel for them, because it's what a time in history.
It is. Absolutely, mate. And this is a marker in our time,
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's going to be remembered as the year that we wish we never lived through.
Yeah, exactly. So, as a are you still a journalist, or you have?
Oh yes, look, I'm always still writing. I mean, I'm not as I used to write. Basically, for about 10 years, I wrote full time. Basically, apart from also being in the band, but now I'm concentrating more on my music, and I just do the occasional articles. But yeah, look, you can still call me a music journalist. So, but yeah, it's a different world though to what it was when I was doing about 15, 20 years ago. Because, for example, back then you had CDs being sent to you. Nowadays there's no CDs, it's just digital. And now that we're in this situation in the world, no one gets to sort of meet anybody to interview. It's all done by Zoom or Skype. So it's a different period in time.
How did you get involved doing music journalism?
It's I've always loved writing from a kid. I used to write, just things that just out of my head and just like factual things. And when the internet happened in the early 90s, I went online and I sort of just started, looking up sites and, just started writing things up and got some connections happening. And my very first interview was with a singer-songwriter called the late, great Andrew, will come to me. Anyway, and that led to other interviews. And then basically record company started, contacting me. They saw my work and it just went from there, mate.
Andrew Gold was his name.
Andrew Gold,
yeah.
That's it. Yes, thank you so much. My memory, mate. Thank God I've written all this stuff, because people ask me all the time, who have you interviewed? And I'm sitting there going, let me think, because I've done hundreds, about 700 interviews, and my wife usually remembers really well, and she goes, tell them about Metallica, or tell them about Nickelback, or John Mayer. And I'm going, oh, that's right, I know those guys. It's just, it's really hard to remember, because it's there's so many people. It's like fans coming up to you at a concert and saying, oh, you remember me? And you go, I see different people every day, oh, you did this gig for us in this city and all that. And I go, oh, I'm glad you remembered. That's really nice of you. But, I can sort of picture you, but hey, I meet someone new every day. It's very hard.
Yeah, totally. And that it keeps you on your toes when you're trying to remember. It's like when people say, who have you mixed? And there's so many bands that I've mixed over the years, and I remember trying to write a CV, and I just thought, if I wrote every band I have mixed or every situation I've been in, but there's still, once you complete that, I find that I've missed out a whole bunch of stuff that's really important, and so it's really hard to cipher through a lot of your stuff and pick out the best elements to sort of represent you, But obviously, you're a renowned singer-songwriter in your own right. You're playing around Australia? You mainly you play around Victoria when you were touring, yeah? Is that correct? Or
Well, actually, mainly I did play around Victoria. Basically, I mean, do a lot of support stuff for a lot of premier artists acts. My main work is really, well, until all this happened, is overseas. I go to Europe. I was going to Europe every year. So, I was playing in, my regular countries were like Germany, had a good following there, Sweden. I've played in Czech Republic, Poland, the UK, the Netherlands, Belgium, trying to think where else. There's just so many countries, but, it's been great. And look, that's what a musician does. He goes out and he plays to people and, gets his music out there and connects with humans and, spreads the word that way. But yeah, in Australia, mostly I've played around Victoria, Melbourne predominantly.
so when you're in Europe, was that a once a year trip that you would do?
I was on a once a year trip, usually about 3 weeks.
Okay.
I would sort of, do as many gigs as I could and a lot of promo stuff. So I think in 2014 I did a tour behind my second album called Terra Firma. And I did 21 days in 7 countries, and I did 16 shows, and that was a pretty full-on tour. I actually came back, and my wife said to me, "You look like a different person. You've lost so much weight." I lost 5 kilos on that tour because it's just full-on. You just sort of travel, do the gig, go to bed, get up, repeat the same day, go to the next country. So a lot of my friends will say to me, gee, what a bit of a nice holiday that is. And I go, it's not a holiday, mate. It's hard work. But, it's obviously work that I enjoy, but it's not easy. It's very hard, slog.
No, it's not, especially when you're doing it independently, right? You self-finance all of that. And so do you have promoters overseas or do you?
I've got a booking agent in Germany. A lot of the other shows I sort of book myself with, local bookers. I've got a record company that I'm signed to in the Netherlands. But, they sort of put out the CDs for me and that sort of stuff and support me. But a lot of it all falls back onto me. Basically I'm self-managed, so I don't have a manager. In my early days, I did have a manager, but I had to sort of, let the agreement go because he didn't really do much for me. So, you want a manager who's really working his butt off for you. So I'm sort of proactive in everything that I do, from promotion to managing and, doing what I can. But, I've built up a nice support base, which is really great, and met some great people along the way.
How long does that take an independent artist to establish themselves on that grassroots level?
A long time. Yeah. Look, I think with Germany, it took me about 3 tours before, my name started really getting out there and, sort of getting booked back again. Sweden, when I went the first time, sort of got me a bit more known. When I went back the second time, more people knew about it. So I was hoping to go back this year, but, with all the COVID things. So, but yeah, look, it takes a long time, but you just got to constantly do it and, make sure you're out there and putting out new music, really.
The first time you went over to Europe, you obviously did you come out in the red or did you sort of lose a bit of money?
No, I was just starting to come out in the, on the very first tour, basically, I didn't make a single cent, right? The second tour, I invested more in order to do more. Didn't make a single cent. After the sixth tour, I started to make a little bit of money, but basically breaking even. I was breaking even. So probably would have taken me another 2 or 3 tours before I started really making some profit, But it takes a long time, mate. I mean, as you know, there's a lot of finance involved, stuff like that, you might be getting paid for the shows, but you still got to get yourself from A to B, and the CDs, I own all my masters, so I pay for that sort of stuff, and I just license my music to the record companies. So yeah, look, there's a lot of work and money involved. But
do you pick up?
It's like
do you pick up a band overseas, or you played purely solo?
My first tour, I actually did it. I picked a local band and I sort of did the tour with the band, but it was just, what can I say? It's just a really hard slog with the band, and dramas. I was beyond that, mate. So I vowed to never work with another band again. So I just basically went over there, hired out an acoustic guitar and just did the shows myself, basically as a soloist, just singing and playing. And look, and that's really built up really well for me. I do have a band in Sweden that are great guys that we record with, and we get along really well. So they play all my current stuff, and so if when the COVID thing hopefully gets over, go back there, I'll be able to do some shows with those guys. But elsewhere, mate, it's just solo, really.
So why Sweden? What was the attraction with Sweden?
I had some. Look, a lot of my initial fans. There was a couple of initial fans that came from Sweden. They came to my shows on my very first tour in the UK, and they spread the word out. Really loved my shows, and eventually a promoter contacted me in Sweden and asked me to go out there. So I went out there the first time, and it went down really well and got my name known a bit more. And so I went back again last year and started working with Tomas Skogsberg, the producer, who's produced my last few singles. And it's just there's a market for it, mate. I mean, especially Aussie rock. In Europe, they just love their Australian music.
Yeah, that's surprising, really, because we're so far away from Europe, and especially independent artists, to get a foot in the door in Europe and get your name out there. That's, like you say, it takes about 6 years before you actually start breaking even. I know for a fact that, when my brother had all the hits in the late 70s, and when the Falcons dispersed in the early 80s, I remember as a kid, I was in that film clip Walk On By, and I went to the Newport station yards where they were filming it, and Joe rocks up in a Volkswagen, a beaten up Volkswagen that was backfiring, and the manager rocks up in a brand new Mercedes Benz. So and that just showed me. And at that point, I thought, how is that? What's going on there? Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Managers seem to be the people who are get the most money out of anything. I mean, you look at the history of rock. Elton John, Billy Joel, all got ripped off by their own managers. Millions of dollars, Bay City Rollers, another one. They're owed something like $260 million because they got ripped off. $260 million. Yeah, it's a lot of money. You look it up. There's they've been still fighting for that for years, And it's amazing. Artists are working and everybody else is making money except the artists. So what's the deal with the Bay City Rollers? Did they not get their manager ripped them off, did he, or was it? Well, apparently their manager ripped them off, and also the record company. They've been fighting for this for years. It's a long court battle. I think they might have, like a couple of years ago, come to some sort of agreement. But, mate, there's a lot of money involved in that. It's incredible. I mean, they were one of the biggest boy bands in the 70s. Well, they were like the Beatles at one stage, weren't they? Yeah, that's right. Rollermania in Australia. I mean, absolutely, it's incredible. I mean, I supported the lineup that came out a couple of years ago, which is basically just the lead singer and with his band. And I think it was about 15 shows they did around the country, and I think 14 of them sold out. And I did 2 of the sold out shows in Melbourne. And mate, I've never seen so many roller fans in my whole life. It's mostly women, in their 50s, just reliving their their teenage years, I suppose. It's incredible, the devotion of these fans. It's fantastic. But at the same time, you can see why they made a lot of money, and someone's getting rich. Yeah, that's it. That's right. And, they would have loved it. They would have lapped it up, I would imagine, the fans. You know? Absolutely. I mean, we all love to have our nostalgia, I do too. I love to go back, and sort of relive, see bands that you grew up with. It's just part of life, really. It's something that, gives joy to you. Oh, yeah, totally. Because upstairs at Birds, we used to have a restaurant, a cafe. It was a pizzeria, basically. Mm-hmm. And I remember the Italian chef up there, he said to me, these people come in and they said they review for Twitter. And he said, what's Twitter? And he goes, they ordered all this food, about $100 and something worth of food and drink. And they said, we don't have to pay because we review for Twitter, right? And he goes, what are you talking about, Twitter? He goes, you got to pay. And they go, no, we don't have to pay because we're reviewers. And what are they? They're bloggers or whatever they're called. I'm not sure. Bloggers, bloggers, that's right. And that there was this big sort of fad of people rocking up to restaurants saying they'll put a bad review into the restaurant, and it's sort of like holding the restaurant to ransom because the restaurant
and that's
gets
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
But there's no
wrong.
law against that, you know that. Like people, and then some imbecile will write something about the restaurant because you made them pay or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll bag your restaurant even though there's nothing wrong with your food.
Yeah,
and you suffer the consequences because of that. You know,
I think that's the problem with social media, because everyone's got an opinion and no one's qualified. You know, like that's true. I mean, I've seen that industry too. People come up and they think and they got the right to sort of come in and just get a free show, a free CD. They're going to review it, but they're not someone of note. For example, I mean, with my stuff, I had to be basically first of all commissioned by the magazine. I had to prove the commission it was real before they even let you go near the artist, which is how it's supposed to be. But nowadays, people just think, oh, I've got a Twitter account, I can review it. You know, it's not right. You know, so, and that was the downfall of why I actually got out of journalism 10 years ago, because at that point I was doing a lot of writing for all the mags, and that's when all the bloggers started happening. You know, and magazines started thinking, oh, well, what should we pay writers when we get bloggers, right? But now they're realising a lot of that stuff, you know, that's just someone's making it all up. I've read articles about artists and information's so incorrect, I just go, what the hell, you know? At least do your research and, you know what you're talking about. So I always research my stuff. I've always double-checked my facts, and that's important. If you want to be respected in your field, you've got to make sure you do the right thing.
Yes, indeed. But that's taken a lot away from the professionalism of it, I guess. Yeah, I remember working in the recording studio in the late 90s, and it was when the Audio Technology magazine started up. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember
and
that.
we used to just get free copies because we were a recording studio. And I found them really interesting to read. Was that a Sydney published?
Yeah, they're still around. I mean, I actually... I did an article from last year on Tomas Skogsberg when I was over in Sweden, because I recorded my single there. So while I was over there, I thought, hey, Tomas has never done an interview in 30 years, and I was the only person he would talk to. So I did that, and they ran it, which is really
fantastic.
Cool. So, but yeah, they're still around.
Oh, great, because I thought they were out of publicity, you know, because of the...
No, Audio Technology. No,
yeah, they're still around. So, yeah, because I tried to have a look at that article of your recording in Stockholm, where Tomas has got a analog recording studio.
Yep.
What year did you do that, Joe?
That was last year, 2019. So
that is your new album, essentially. What?
Well, that's the start of my whole Swedish connection, really. Tomas, actually, that goes back a few years, because Tomas... I first met Tomas through working with a band in Sweden called Rough Rockers, who asked me to join in 2018, and I joined the band basically. And so he worked on our first couple of tracks, and then when I went over there last year to work on my stuff, he recorded my single, and it's led to a partnership now where basically I've just recorded 3 new tracks with him. So he's the producer on those tracks along with myself, and so you develop a rapport with people and who you like working with. So that is my whole Swedish sort of so I suppose the next album is going to be very much Swedish influence, because it's going to be produced by Tomas, all Swedish musicians. It's mostly recorded there, really. So and
on analog tape, right?
Analog tape, yes, that's right. Analog tape. Yeah. So great to work in an analog studio, because Tomas is, it's just amazing producer. He really is fantastic how he works, and the whole studio is based in the forest, about an hour's way from Stockholm, and there's no Wi-Fi, no radio, no television, and you just there concentrating on music, and it's absolutely fantastic, and just to go back, like it's almost like you're recording the 70s, just fantastic stuff. It's totally different to work in the digital realm.
Yeah, totally. And how long did you stay in Stockholm when you were there?
In Stockholm, I stayed about 12 days it was. So, but in the studio, I was there for a couple of days. I did recorded, 3 tracks while I was over there. So we basically just non-stop. As soon as I got there, we worked at midnight. I got up about 4 and started working again. So but we got a lot of work done.
So you've interviewed Rick Brewster.
Yes, Rick Brewster actually plays on a couple of my tracks.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, he does on my instrumental stuff. I've interviewed him quite a number of times. We sort of, developed a bit of a friendship over the years, and great guy, absolutely. I mean, one of Australia's greatest guitar players. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mixed the Brewster brothers at Birds a couple of years ago.
Oh, was that you that night? I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they did the acoustic
thing. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, fantastic. That was a great night.
Yeah, it was. And I grew up with a lot of those songs, and I've never mixed the Angels or anything like that, but I was really pleased to mix those guys, and I just thought, no wonder these guys were great, because their sound was just so easy,
Yeah, absolutely. And we did a great job with the sound, because they sounded fantastic that night.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was a really interesting. I actually like their music acoustic,
Yeah, I do too. It stands out. That's a great song, mate. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was hoping that they'd come back again, but they never sort of got around to it, playing at Birds. Are they Sydney-based?
Yeah. They're spread all around the country.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Rick lives in Tasmania, and John lives in Adelaide, and then you got, what's his name, Geisha, who lives in Sydney.
Yeah.
So they're all over the country.
Okay. And they're not the same band, though, are they, without Doc?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'll give Geisha, he's doing a great job. And I've seen him quite a few times with him, and, he's doing a great job. But, without the original members, mate, it's different.
Totally. Totally. So how do you find working with him?
It was great. I mean, I set Rick the tracks. He basically came up with a great guitar solo, and he asked me if I didn't like it, he could redo it. I'm going, as soon as I heard, I'm not wanting him to redo. That's fantastic, spot on. So he's done 3 tracks with me over the years, so and all fantastic. And people can hear the tracks, you'll know straight away when Rick plays, he's got a distinctive style. So no, it's great. He's a great guy to work with.
Well, I've got to tell you, Joe, it's been terrific talking with you, man.
You too, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. It's been some great subjects you've covered.
I hope so.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And if you need anything else, just let me know.
I will, mate.
All the best. Have a good one.
Pal.
All right, ciao.
You must have put a voodoo on me. You must have cast a spell.